Good afternoon, colleagues. Today we have the 7th meeting of the subcommittee to examine the implementation in Hong Kong of the UN Security Council resolutions in relation to sanctions. On May 7th, two colleagues had applied to join this committee, Dr. Priscilla Leong and Honorable Alvin Leong. However, after I got a reply from Dr. Leong and Alvin Leong. After careful consideration, they have decided to withdraw the applications, and their letter have been tabled for your reference. Thus, we have dealt with the application for late membership. Today, we shall deal with 2 regulations and 1 repeal. Can we invite the administration into the room, please? The first regulation we deal with will be the
19 LN 81 of 2019，即係2019年聯合國制裁中非共和國規。
For the markup copy of the regulations, please refer to the Annex E of the English version. Let's welcome the government's team. So we met many times before. So we have Acting Deputy Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development, the Assistant Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development, as well as the 2 government counsel from the Department of Justice. So, can we have the Assistant Secretary to walk us through the Central African Republic Regulations 2019? So I'll give you a brief introduction. So the Central African Republic is a landlocked country. In 2018, it has an escalation of the violence with the worsening humanitarian condition. So, on 2014 and 2013, it had passed 2 resolutions to impose an 1-year sanctions on the travel ban and armed embargo and financial sanctions. And every year since, the UN Security Council would extend them. And most recently, in January, had passed the resolution 2454 to extend the aforementioned sanctions till the 31st of January 2020. We have received the instruction of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to execute this resolution. Thus, we come up with this UN Sanctions Central African Republic Regulations 2019. And it shall expire on 31st January 2020. Upon the passage of the 2454 resolution, the officers decided that they would review the embargo imposed on 12th of September this year, they passed the resolution 2488 to slightly relax the details of the arms embargo. And last month, we have amended the regulation to implement the 2488. At the next subcommittee, we shall explain the latest provisions. So you don't have the latest resolution? So that was drafted earlier. However, it was superseded. The UN Security Council has fine-tuned the regulations. However, we shall explain to you at the next meeting. Understood. Any question from our colleagues and the principal? So, Ms. Leona Locke, can we walk us through the markups? Please refer to Annex E. A for egg. So I'll just explain the markups. Right, in the first page, that's the preliminary. You have amended the date year to 2019. Hang on, Mr. Chow. Okay, I just want to make sure I have the latest version. Just a precaution. Thank you, Ms. Kinsella. Continue. So on the interpretation, we've included some new terms, for example, assistance, so as to streamline the upcoming provisions. And for the definition of committee, we furnished with more information to mention the date of the resolution passed. And on connected person, we have further simplified the definition. And for economic assets, so as we add this definition to save space for the next resolution provisions. So compared to the May revision for the definition of Hong Kong persons, you have a similar revisions. So we adopt a new text for the Congo Republic, well as a more modern drafting provision. So it will be adopted since that's why you feel familiar. On the third page, we have a new tag called Hong Kong person, and also a new term mode of transport. And the page 4, see we have used mode of transport. We don't have to repeat the shipped aircraft and vehicle. And for the pilot, it's more just punctuation. And relevant entity. So now that the announcement have been changed, so as we just adopt from previous regulations. And for the relevant person, same wise. So 2 resolutions have been deleted since it's not enforced in this regulation. We also included a new resolution 2399 and add a new term responsible person. So as to simplify the provisions, and the secretary refers to the Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. And for page 6, we have added a new term supply, which means supply, sale, or transfer. And page 7, second part 2, prohibitions. So the changes are really correspond to those making change 1. For example, we just have to mention supply. For 1B, we have defined Hong Kong person, so we need to have to repeat anymore. And for bracket 2, so we have used the word supply, thus we can delete sell and transfer. For 2B, to a connected person, since already defined in the interpretations, thus we can simplify it. And for same for bracket C. For page 8, we have some changes in punctuation. For bracket 4, since we have included new term connected person, thus we kind of managed to condense it. Well, some of the wording have also been simplified. We deleted the B because we have folded into A. And some of the changes is really just condensing it. And for bracket 2, mode of transport will stand for all 3 types of transport. And the two major changes, which connected person in place of the old expression. For page 10, we have use was applied, so you didn't have to repeat selling transfer. And also we have the mode of transport. And for 4A, the responsible person has already defined in the interpretation sections, does not be repeated. For B, 1, 2, 3, the same principle applies, which for the term Hong Kong person. So we have the responsible person was stand in the place of the charter operator and the pilot in command. And also we have applied the same tag Hong Kong person. And for bracket E, we also replace it with the responsible person. And for 5, it's just punctuations changes. For page 12, we have used the connected person definition. And for 4, the Hong Kong person is used, and for the wording is bracket 2. Really just textual changes, but no changes as meaning. And for 13, for bracket 4, we have used to again connected person, so much simplified. And for 5, we have defined economic access in the interpretation section. Thus, we're able to simplify it by a lot, when also the Hong Kong person has already been defined as well. And for page 14, we have the text just shifting around the wording, and we clearly designed own or controlled. We also insert the term directly and indirectly, because we need to follow the text of the resolution. Okay, Mr. Holden Chow. Okay, just one thing. For economic assets, I think you have to refer to a predefined definition. So, for the handling and the usage of the economic assets, was that the same for the similar regulations? Just want to confirm this.
本呢個係
Is this the latest version? We are using this in other regulations as well. Page 15, we have added directly or indirectly in line with the resolution. Clause 6, you can see the addition. They were relocated from clause 7, so we have also deleted clause 7. On page 17, you see a new clause 7. They were just moved from the back from page 12 and moved over here, so there's no change in meaning. On page 18, part 3, the wording is just some changes in the drafting. We're just moving the words around. We have connected person, supply, so we can simplify it. Page 19, the changes are the same there. And 2A, it is just in line with the requirement of the resolution. Page 20, we have some minor drafting adjustments. We've used supply. We don't need to say sale and transfer. And we also have some minor changes that don't affect the meaning. Page 21, it's the same. It is just some drafting changes. The meaning has not changed. Page, looking at 2 bracket B, I'd like to ask, you mentioned some areas have been relaxed. Is this section relaxed? Not this regulation. It's not reflected there yet. My understanding is the subcommittee is not able to deal with it yet. So that's why we are still dealing with the previous version. Because the text seems to be the same as in the other versions. Okay. We were on 2B. That is in line with the resolution. Page 22. It's the same. We are using economic assets, so some of the descriptions can be simplified. And the rest of the page is also some simplification. We also added in directly or indirectly. Page 23. It's the same. Page 23, bracket C1. There's a change in the date because we have to comply with the latest resolution. So the date is modified. And the subsequent amendments are just simplifications. The meaning has not changed. Page 24, it's the same. These are just drafting changes, simplifications. So clause 11. We've added misleading to false information. So in the past version, we've also had misleading, and that would make it uniform with other legislation in Hong Kong. At page 22, 25, there's just changes in punctuation. Page 26, we have a new clause 7 that replaces this. On page 27, part 4, it's because we've used mode of transport, and that includes the different modes, and we have clarified the wording. So after we talk about vessels, we talk about planes and vehicles. So the three types of transport are dealt with separately. So you can see this whole part, it just rearranges the content, so the actual meaning has not changed. So you see all the way to page 32, these are the relevant amendments. The original clause 16 aircraft, that has been deleted because it has merged with the previous clauses. On page 34, we talk about vehicles. All this is deleted because in the previous part we had already combined those items. On page 37, these are just some simplifications of the text. Page 38, on the section of proof of evidence. On clause 20, we have added premises and seized property so that we can simplify the text. So all the subsequent changes are because we have these new terms, so we can save some, we can simplify, and because of drafting needs, we can rearrange the wording. It's the same on page 39, and all the way to page 40 is the same. On page 40, we see clause 23, bracket 1. We've added 2 sentences. They are from 41, so it's just change in wording. And then in the next few pages, 41, 42, 43, these are just some textual changes or simplifying the wording. There's no change to the meaning. Page 44, we have some changes to the wording, some changes to punctuation. 46, 47, it's the same. The wording is slightly different, but there's no substantial change to the meaning. So when you move on to page 48, the relevant person or relevant entity, you can see it's similar in other regulations. So the new methodology is to have our secretary make a notice on the website, and that is the list. So it's the same as our past practice. It's just spelt out slightly differently. Page 49, we have the additional clause 34 saying the powers of the secretary can be delegated to a suitable person, and on page 50 it says that it will expire on 31st of January 2020. Thank you. Let me ask Mr. Ao, any question? Legal advisor, anything to add? Well, if that's the case, the 2019 Central African Republic regulation we've completed our scrutiny. Our other legal advisor, Mr. Ip. Let's invite Mr. Ip. Okay, thank you. The next regulation that we need to scrutinize, there are actually two of them, but it's the same. One of them is United Nations Sanctions Yemen Regulation 2019, Legal Notice 94 of 2019, and United Nations Sanctions Yemen Regulations 2015 Repeal Regulation, Legal Notice 95 of 2019. So if colleagues need to refer to the mocked up copy, you can turn to Annex G, G for girl. And Mr. Ao, do you have that copy? We are scrutinizing the English version. So at the beginning of the subcommittee, I had reminded everybody we'll be dealing with it in English because these UN regulations, if you use English, you can see the evolution clearly. So I'll have Undersecretary take us through the regulations. It's an Arabic country, and since 2011, Yemen has been on the brink of civil war, and it has led to many casualties and deaths. The southern part and northern part has been in conflict, and they also are related to terrorist groups. So the UN Security Council had endorsed a resolution to implement a one-year financial sanction, and also embargo. And by April 2014, they had also endorsed a resolution to impose an arms embargo. I mentioned the arms embargo has no expiry date, and regarding the financial sanctions, it is on an annual basis, so we have to renew it every year. On this occasion, the resolution we're looking at in 26th of February 2019, we had the UN had endorsed this, and the financial sanctions and will be extended to 2020, 26th of February. So we have received instructions from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to implement the resolution 2454. So we have the tabled regulation, and since the UN sanctions have been implemented comprehensively, so we also have a repeal to repeal the 2015 sanctions. Thank you, Chairman. Any questions? Undersecretary, you can continue with your clause-by-clause scrutiny. Yeah. So let's turn to Annex G. We have the title changed from 2015 to 2019. The interpretation, these are very similar to the Central African regulations. So on page 2, the designated entity, the amendments are because of how we publish and issue the list. So that's why we have changed the wording as well. Similarly, the designated person changes are also because we have changed the way we publish this list, and we also added economic assets term. Page 3, we added Hong Kong person. Page 4, we have mode of transport and the operator. It's because we added mode of transport, we can simplify that. We have relevant entity and relevant person in page 5. The way it's published is changed. That's why we have made some changes. We've also added responsible person. We added secretary and supply, referring to the supply, sale, or transfer. It's similar to Central African. Mr. Holden Chow. Yes, thank you. We are on page 5. Page 6. Part 2 of prohibitions. Because we have supply, so some wording can be simplified. We have Hong Kong person, and there are some subsequent changes in bracket 2. These are drafting changes. So the order of the sentences are changed a little bit. There's no change to the meaning. Page 7, the same arrangement. Page 8, we also have some simplification. So some words are deleted. We have the term Hong Kong person. In bracket 2, we have mode of transport and so on. And these are drafting changes similar to our previous regulation. On page 9, we have mode of transport to replace extra words. So we have a Hong Kong person replacing a whole bunch of words.
Page 10, by the same principle, and we also have some slight change of expression. Page 11. So we have a new tag Hong Kong person, so that we have simplified. And for bracket 2, we also have some drafting changes without any changes to this meaning. And page 12. Since we have included assistance in the interpretation, so we can simplify it or streamline the expression. And for 5 bracket 1, so as for the time limit, in the past we put this into the final clause. Now we have bring it up to section 5. As the subsequent, that now that we have a tag interpretation clauses, we have simplified the expression. And for 13, we have the new term economic assets, and we also include directly, indirectly, to follow the resolution text. Same for 14, we have to insert it directly and indirectly. And for section 6, for bracket 1, we also repeat the expiration clause. For bracket 3, we bring it forward from 7F. For page 15, so we changed the person to individual. However, there's no difference. Page 16. Page 7. As you can see, in page 21 is supposed to fall under part 4. We have bring it up to here. Page 17. And for 8 bracket 1, the effective date will insert it into here. We also have simplified expression since we have the new tag called economic assets for H18. We have the new tag and also insert the clause directly indirectly owned. For this section is section 8. The application until the midnight on 26 February. So on the provision of false or misleading information for obtaining license, well, that will not expire. For 9, it will not expire, while 8 will expire. For 9, can it operate alone in part 3 in the absence of 8? Can you explain? For the UN resolution against Yemen is mainly on financial and travel ban. So they all run for 1 year. Thus, our regulations will set a sunset date, which is set at 26th of February 2020. So these two will expire. As for the arms embargo, so that it will last indefinitely and will not have a sunset clause. So we will not specify when it will expire. Okay. Page 17. We've gone through that. For 18. Okay, along those lines. We simplify the expression. And 19. There's some simplification or some textual adjustment. And for 9, we have insert the word misleading before information, as you can see from these Central African Republic regulations. Ditto for page 20. For 21, so the deleted portion have been inserted on this section 7, which is, I'll bring it up forward. 22. Well, the same as for the CR regulation. Well, ships and cars and airplanes were separate, but now we have grouped them together, so they've been combined. So it's just simply about amalgamating or simplifying. I wonder if that raised by Ms. Holden Chow or Kenneth Lau. Does human satellites have been included in the resolution? In Yemen's case, it was really arms and related material, so it had been expounded in the definition. It didn't quite mention satellites. So military satellites have not been banned at all? I think someone raised this question. Mr. Chow, do you recall this? I think we discussed that. I just want to clarify, is that this for Yemen or Central African Republic that the military satellites fall outside of arms? For arms and related material have a wide definition. For example, any weapons, ammunitions, or military vehicles, and also cover military equipment. So if you say if satellite falls into a military equipment, I guess when we come across that, we'll need to see if that's for military use and to see if it covered by this definition, to see if it should be sanctioned. Okay, continue. 22 onwards. The mode of transport, well, it's just simply grouping them together. So flipping through it is simply just shuffling the words. For 27, for those related to aircraft have been entirely deleted since we have already merged this section. And for page 30 onwards, the vehicles have been deleted since we've been merged into one. And for 32, Section 17 is just simplifying. It's just have this part instead of the numbers. For 33, we add new tags, premises, and seized property. And all the rest is really simplification or textual refinement. In 34 and 35, so really just expression simplification. And 21 bracket 1, as you see the new ones, just really moving that provision forward. And also the renumbering for page 36, page 37 onwards, 38. It's usually a minor textual adjustment without any changes to the meaning. And for 39, so request will be changed to require. And page 40, just textual and punctuation changes. 41. It's really some drafting changes for cleaner expression. 42, same wise. 43, the designated person or designated entity, the way it's published, we have modified it in which the secretary would put the list on our website. Thus, this is just corresponding changes. On page 44, the relevant person and relevant entity. By the same approach, that's why we include a similar provisions, just we list them out again. And 45, 33, the secretary powers can be delegated to any person or class to. We'll delete the word duration because we have already cited the effective date in the individual provisions. That's all. Mr. Holden Chow. Pardon me. For 33, it's a new provision. The secretary may delegate any of the powers to any person or class So are you following the wording for the resolution that will be adopted from now on? Oh, when it may, but to any person. So usually, who are they? Usually staff from the bureau. Just curious. Another thing, for the delegated person, they only exercise the power for in section 30 and nothing else. Secretary. For the old regulations, the secretary did not appear and not given any powers. But now the relevant persons and entities will be uploaded into our website, and it will be uploaded by the secretary. So does the secretary appear in these regulations? And in line with other government regulations, there also a provision that the secretary can be further delegated usually to the colleague at the bureau for UN resolutions. At the uploading of the list, have been delegated to myself or other colleagues. As for Chairman's question, whether the Secretary's powers are limited to this one, yes, because in this regulation, his powers are limited to uploading the list to the website. Any other questions? Other colleagues? Legal advisor? I have no further questions as well. So I have to have a repeal regulation. It's just simply on repealing the 2015 regulations. Simple as that. All right. Okay, thank you for your colleagues and the administration team. That's the end of today's meeting. Thank you.